How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Goosebumps number 10, The Ghost Next Door. This was written by R.L. Stine and originally came out August 93. And I guess a few things I should mention. Number 10, we're hitting the double digits, and August 1993, I believe Welcome to Dead House was August of 92, so Goosebumps' 1-year birthday. All that stuff, really cool. In this book, a girl begins to suspect that her next-door neighbor is secretly a ghost and takes advantage of a long summer break to investigate. That's a solid concept, and it has a cover that I think is pretty cool. A little bit on the simpler side, but it gets the point across. Your house, your Converse shoes, because everybody in Goosebumps wears Converse, and coming in is the ghost feet. You also get the classic Tim Jacobus fisheye, this cool tile, and the air where the door latch is on the wrong side. That's pretty cool. And overall, there's a lot to like with this book. I don't want to say it's my favorite. I don't think it's, a lot of people's top best of Goosebumps list or anything. But I think it is pretty interesting with a good sense of atmosphere. And that's the key thing here, atmosphere. I believe I'm recording this at the time a lot of kids are getting out of school and going on summer break. Summer break is the best time to read this book. This book is about a long, lazy summer, having all these days to do whatever you want, and ultimately not being able to do anything. I've had a few summer breaks like this in my youth, and it's cool to see them reflected here. I really did like that. But also, being about ghost, being about death, this is more of a melancholy Goosebumps book, and I did find the change of tone pretty interesting. Now, this isn't the scariest Goosebumps book. There's not as much like in-your-face direct horror, but it's got some really good atmosphere, a good sense of gloominess, a gloomy ghost story. Makes sense, really cool. But there is some fun moments. The climax of this book, really, really good. And there is actually a scene after this book's big plot element is dropped. There is a really good sort of spooky scene running around this house, and I really did like that. But I gotta be careful not to spoil the big plot element here, because this book does have a really big shoe that drops, but I think a lot of us adults could see it coming. And that is one thing that everybody talks about with this book, is if you're an adult, a lot of us can tell from chapter 1 exactly where this book is going. And I kind of wish that I had read this book as a kid, because if this surprise gets you, it's a really good surprise. And I can imagine that there are several kids who read this book and just have their jaw on the floor with shock. And man, if only I could have read this when I was younger, that would be cool. But adults can probably see this coming. And if you've seen the Goosebumps movie with Jack Black, there is a reference to this book in there that sadly does spoil it. So there is that as well. But if somehow you get through this unspoiled and you can't figure it out, it's a good ending that definitely adds a whole lot to the plot, and I really do like what they talk about here and the world that they build around it. There's some really good ideas, but it is just a little distracting at how obvious it is. But I'll try not to say too much more, because I really don't want to spoil it if you haven't figured it out. But yeah, almost everybody does, and that is a little disappointing. Anyway, though, let's talk a little bit about the plot. I don't want to do any major spoilers, but I do want to take a glance through the plot, analyze a few moments, but I won't cover the ending. Anyway, we open up with Hannah, our main girl, and she's awoken from a terrible nightmare, only to find that, no, the real world isn't horrific. It's the same day, every day. It's boring summer vacation. And she talks about how she wanted to go to summer camp, but her parents simply couldn't afford to send her, and all of her friends were supposed to write to her and keep in touch, but no one's sending her any letters. So she's, even sending angry letters back to her friends. Why are you not talking to me? Please talk to me. I'm so bored. That's interesting and relatable. But anyway, eventually, she notices she has a new neighbor. The house next door to her has been empty for a long, long time. Next thing you know, there's a kid living there, and he says he's been there for a while. How come Hannah never noticed him? She never saw anyone move in, no trucks, no boxes, no commotion. And you think that if there's been someone living next door to you for months, and you're in a lazy summer vacation, you would notice him pretty quickly. But she's never seen him. He says he's actually been to school and made friends, but all the friends that this kid references, Hannah doesn't know. And on top of that, he'll have this tendency to wander off and disappear and reappear, and he seems to be acting quite strange. This disappearing, this being in the house without ever having moved in, and a couple other strange occurrences, Hannah's gonna begin to suspect that this guy is a ghost, and that will in turn begin her investigations. You get some fun scenes where she's following this kid around, kind of spying on him, wishing her friends were there because maybe she's not the best spy and it leads to embarrassing situations. But there is also an interesting element here. When we get to meet the neighbor kid's friends, they are bad influences. They have this rivalry with a local mailman who takes his job way too seriously and yells at local kids. He's making himself a target by doing this, and they want to start doing vandalism and pulling pranks on this mailman. And these kids that the neighbor is friends with are bad, but in a realistic way that I definitely have seen. And this is another interesting thing for Stine to talk about, because you don't really get too many books that say, hey, your best friends might be scumbags, And it's portrayal of kids being jerks in a realistic way that I've seen kids be jerks in, that I don't think too many other authors have been honest about. But yeah, you see these kids, and I've definitely seen people with friends like this, and you do want to go up and tell them, hey, don't be friends with those people. So there's a bit of a drama there. And also, on top of all this, the most traditional Goosebumps horror element, we do have this haunting figure. A black shadow figure with red, fiery eyes that's going to be following Hannah around, haunting her, scaring her, and trying to keep her away from Danny. Who is this figure? I won't spoil it, obviously, but I will say the reveal doesn't make 100% sense. And when you hear this reveal, you're like, wait, what does that mean for Hannah, and what does that mean for how this world works? It could have been explained in a much simpler way, but yeah, the shadow figure is cool, but his explanation is a little hard to grasp. But whatever, the book does build to a cool finale. I really do like the final scene. I really do like that, even though the ending is obvious, I do like they reveal it a little bit early. It's not like in the final pages It's more like before the final fifth, and we do get a fair bit of time to analyze the new perspective of the world and how that works. So I like that as well. So overall, I think The Ghost Next Door has a good sense of atmosphere behind it, and I think there's some cool ideas here. It's just a little easy to figure out what's going on and doesn't have the biggest scares. So not the best Goosebumps entry, but I think it's relatively solid. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Goosebumps playlist. I've talked about a lot of the other books. I talked about Welcome to Dead House and Night of the Living Dummy and the special edition with the 10 stories in it. So if you want to see more, you can click right here to see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Goosebumps playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.